This is the Business of Apps podcast, bringing you actionable insights from the leaders of the global app industry and the world's fastest growing apps. You can find more app news, data and analysis over at businessofapps.com.
Welcome to the Business of Apps podcast. On this show, we invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful but brief. In this episode, we have Mateusz Bochenczak, Apps and Mobile Gaming Measurement at AppsFlyer. Mateusz, welcome to the Business of Apps podcast.
Thank you so much, Art. It's great to be here.
Terrific. Thank you for coming, Mateusz. Okay. One of the biggest causes of our fears and worries is uncertainty. Ask any app marketer what's in your mind more than anything else, and chances are you will hear something like, well, how well do I know what are the channels that bring me the most of my app users today? App attribution is important like never before. I know it may sound like a cliche, but it's true. In this episode, we have Mateusz to talk about the future of app attribution, where we stand today and where we're going to. But first, to start off, let's talk about you, Mateusz, first. What is your background in mobile tech?
Once again, it's great to be here. Hello, everyone. So my name is Mateusz. I'm Mati. In the mobile tech industry, I've been for now almost 8 years. Started with very early, right after uni, at the startup back then called N26, when I started learning in and outs of the whole performance marketing. And trust me, things were much easier back then. Firebase was just entering the whole space. Basically, you had to set up campaigns. Everything was very easy to measure when it comes to lifetime values. And that definitely caught my attention. And not long after that, I took a break for 1 year to do my master's. I was hired by Google, where I grew from the account strategist on the overall mobile performance to being focused mainly on the gaming apps, where I spent working with the top studios in EMEA, helping them with their performance marketing, acquiring new users, increasing lifetime value, and discussing analytics, export, and creative. The next big challenge was huge change that we see. Probably we'll be talking about it today. So a little earthquake by Apple and changing the paradigm to the privacy-centric user attribution and measurement. And that's why I joined AppsFlyer, because I believe that could be a very interesting adventure to be at. So right now I'm helping the studios here in the UK and Central Europe with their measurement setup, as well as reaching their goals when it comes to the both paid and owned media.
Well, that's the journey for sure. It's not like every day I have a chance to talk with somebody who, so to speak, used to be behind the search bar of Google's search bar, on the other end, not the entire, company, but the division responsible for advertising. That small thing from Apple, quote unquote, small thing, changed a lot of things in the industry. Reverberations are still here, not that huge as used to be initially. People are getting used to it, but we will touch on that later a little bit. Now, before talking about the future of attribution and the rest, how would you characterize the state of mobile marketing today?
That's actually a great question, because I think if you look at the last 2 years, things changed dramatically. And I would summarize it in one sentence, that the gold rush is over. So the huge uplifts that the whole industry experienced during COVID, when unfortunately a big chunk of our society was locked in their houses and households, and basically, for better or worse, doomed to have a mobile phone as their best friend, we saw a huge uplift when it comes both into the installs, new users, and revenue. However, that's now a song of the past. Currently, the state of mobile marketing is experiencing, not to the extent as some of the industries, but also something I would characterize as COVID hangover. So a little bit of, I would say, less favorable economic conditions. I think we shouldn't be afraid to use this word, that we are getting into a more recessive state, Obviously, the companies are a bit more careful with where and when they spend. And that's why the measurement is so relevant right now, because you cannot rely just on the organic uplift. You need to be very laser focused when it comes to your campaigns. And I would say one of the big changes that also completely switched from May 2021 to today is the thing that you mentioned, right? So the Apple changes in the privacy centric. I think the idea behind is very relevant, and we should every user should be in charge of their data.
Absolutely.
But that being said, it's also completely changed the way that the industry operates, because let's face it, we were addicted to user level data insights, and now we need to learn in the new reality.
Yeah, that's one of those things when we all get a chance to be on both sides, from, let's say, 9 to 5, you're on the side of a marketer, you're being part of the some app attribution team at the company, and that news from Apple was a nightmare for you. Once you finish with your job for that day, you become a regular person, a regular user, and you're on the other side. You may appreciate that effort because it's actually about your privacy. So I think it's helpful for all of us to try as best as we can keep both these perspectives and just realize that this is how it should be. Probably would be better if it happened sooner, a bit earlier. I'm not quite sure, but it is that it is. It happened at that point, and we're moving forward with the recognition that this is the right order of things. We have to adjust.
100%. I'm with you on this one.
Yeah. So every app marketer has this notion of app user journey, not journey to the moon or Mars, but the journey that goes like this: from the first touch point where people are being introduced to the app and to the app's landing page on the app stores. What are the most popular journeys today, and which one of those deliver the best conversion rate, like the goal of every app marketer?
Want to improve your app marketing skills? Know how to fight back mobile fraud? Or how to launch an influencer marketing campaign? You've got it all at the Business of Apps Insights. Opinion, how-tos, thought leadership, and analysis from global app and social media industry. Visit our Insights section at businessofapps.com/insights/podcast. And now, back to the show.
Right. I think this question, so before maybe jumping into the answer here, I want to take us 2 steps back and say something that might be obvious, but we tend to forget that. Like right now, the app marketing industry or the mobile apps industry, we became a mature industry. So, it's 2023. In 2007, one quite famous guy in a black turtleneck came into the stage and said, "Listen, that's a phone, that's internet and iPod in one." And then, of course, the Apple Store was released. A lot has changed. The competition grew, and it's not that getting featured of any of the app stores will guarantee you a success. Now, to what you mentioned about getting those funnels, the conversion journeys, as well as the user behavior, that's became pretty complex thing. And depending on the vertical or genre that you operate in, you need to try to, first of all, be open to testing of different ways of acquiring those users. And here I don't only mean the paid marketing media, while of course it's still a huge chunk of it, but we definitely see a surge of user journeys, like for example, web to app. So trying to get users into the mobile web, educate them on the landing page, and then convert them into the active users on a mobile app. We see a big surge of things like influencer marketing, referrals, user invites, and the whole owned media journeys are becoming more and more popular across the whole media mix. And I think that would be the key definition here, that it has not become, so it used to be quite linear, Now we see multiple touch points, so a multi attribution and journeys that can be measured across various marketing channels is the key to success, because competition is fierce, and we as app users, we became pretty demanding.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's like the trajectory of every ecosystem. As it evolves, it becomes more complicated, involves more moving parts, and the complexity just kicks in. And yeah, I would totally agree. I think one of the most so to speak, unusual channels for me was that, like, I mean, people may discover your app through discussion on Reddit. They may stumble on your app landing page on the App Store before reading an article somewhere. Those channels, they still do work. We're not limited to paid advertising through the mega platforms like TikTok, Meta, or Google. And those channels are still contribute to the success of your app. They still drive the users to your landing page in the App Store, and they become your users, ideally loyal users, to stay with you.
And actually, quickly to add to that, you mentioned something very important. So when you said about the loyal users and the channel diversification, I think that's what we also see now in 2023. It's a lot kind of going back to basics, so to say. So reminding ourselves about the fundamentals, like why we create certain products, in this case, mobile apps, and what really makes the user tick and wanting to stay and use our mobile apps, which also would kind of change a little bit. I think the focus from the metrics like, CPIs, IPMs, which obviously are quite relevant when it comes to the marketing at scale. But in the end, I think we're going to see more and more blended metrics. So where it's a time where basically we see both non-organic and organic metrics. So the top funnel as well as the bottom-up approaches, mixing and trying to go into a bit more of the mixed marketing modeling side. But we can definitely also go a little bit more how the measurement changed now in the recent months.
Gotcha. Switching the gears, cross promotion. I remember this notion was introduced to me, gosh, years ago, 2013, 2012, when I was in the app marketing team, and game studios who came to us, they were the cross promotion was on their radar back then, because clever folks realized that promoting between the game portfolio, between the games in their portfolio, was quite a good thing to tap, and that was really beneficial for their bottom line. In the light of Apple's ATT framework today, how does it work now, cross promotion?
Right. Yes, definitely. What you mentioned, the term that has been within the industry for a little longer than a while. However, in the last months, it really got a bit more of a buzzword. The content fortresses. We see a massive M&A in the industry, basically bigger players acquiring smaller players, the vertical integration, and all for the fact that they can cross-promote different apps and games within those mega companies or mega corporates. And I believe that definitely then that can be that's something that we definitely see is getting more and more attention. We are being asked by our clients to develop certain products like cross lifetime value. I know that some of the companies actually adopt different metrics, for example, not a retention metrics for just one game or app, but the portfolio retention, right? So let's say if a certain user lifetime value is ending within a certain app, why not basically invite her or him into a different app or game from the same family? Those metrics can be very, very relevant. What I think the biggest challenge is right now is still on the A, measurement front, and B, on the platform rules. And I think that's going to be was just reading the article regarding Voodoo and the idea of the cross promotion with the games, what's allowed and what's not. So I feel like all those changes are still in the storming stage. Mm-hmm. However, we don't have a clear, I would say, a clear, for lack of the better word, but agreement across the industry what is still allowed within identifying the users across the portfolio. If in the lack of IDFA on the iOS side, is the vendor identifier sufficient for that? But we can definitely see more and more experimentation and asks from our clients that want to understand the lifetime value of a cross promo across a portfolio of their apps and games. And that's going to be a theme of 2023 for sure.
Yeah, measuring LTV by definition is something you're doing during the long period of time, and when platforms change the rules, kind of a mid-air in terms of measuring LTV from your game project, which may involve hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop and promote. That's a challenge, and it's not necessarily something that is challenging for a big studio, but for a small company as well, because the bottom line is that LTV, this is kind of a core part and parcel of your strategy to develop sustainable business in the long run. Now, my next question is regarding one of those three-letter acronyms. I don't mean MI6 or CIA. I'm talking about CTV, which stands for Connected TV. I cut the cord probably like 8 years ago, switched to, consuming content on Netflix, YouTube, iTunes. And so many people did the same thing. Connected TV is a pretty big part of the content consumer ecosystem, and as well as advertising universe, so to speak. So attribution, connected TV to mobile, what's interesting in this space right now?
Yeah, I really love that you asked about that, because that's one of my favorite things, as it goes in line of this channel diversification and really creative thinking when it comes to the marketing strategy, really expanding it from just app to app discussion, but it goes in line with how we consume media. Exactly what you said, Art. Like, so many people cut the cord, and they want to have a certain products and videos on demand, streamable at any given point. But obviously, the brands that produce those topics need a way to measure that. So interestingly enough, just the last when we look at the 2022, just from the second half of this year, we saw an increase of more than 20% of clicks and installs when it comes to the connected TV to mobile experiences, which obviously means that within the space, we will see, first of all, a result that a CTV can bring compared to a traditional TV or radio attribution, and then more personalized content. And what I really do strongly believe that's going to be a big change when around the CTV is that with the fast growing pace and the more platforms available like Roku, Samsung, PlayStation, we are entering an era of, first of all, cross-device measurement, and the way we consume media won't be now really focused on one specific device, like only on the mobile phone, only on your TV or laptop, or maybe your console. But you are, as a customer, you are expecting the same experience across all the devices in your home. And I think CTV to mobile is just another step in stitching across this whole user journey, having this truly holistic omni-channel experience. So I'm personally a big fan of it, and I would highly encourage any of the listeners that their brand is also trying to promote on the connected TV platforms to try it out.
Yeah, because I know personally, kind of on anecdotal level, I can tell you that I've seen so many cases when I see people watching something on Netflix and they grab their phone to look up some information, just like regular stuff, look up the character in the movie or something maybe even not related. I'm sorry to say people may do two things are not related to each other, like, checking their Instagram stream or something on TikTok while watching the movie. I'm not sure how what are they capable to get the best from the both at this moment, but this is how things are going these days. And for brands, it's definitely an interesting situation when they have a chance to be introduced on those two channels. And it used to be a novel thing. Now I believe it's quite common because, just like we were saying, the number of people who are switching to connected TV is growing. The number of people who are having being connected, being plugged to the mobile is growing as well. So the whole ecosystem and this attribution between these two big platforms is growing as well. So yeah, that's definitely very interesting and encouraging.
Exactly. And I think you mentioned here a very important trend that we see already for years, but it's only kind of getting even more magnified, which is a demand. So that when we consume any type of content, we demand it to be real time. So we don't really want to wait now, let's say, that's when you mentioned when the certain episode ends or when we're gonna get back home. We want right now and want to be as relevant as possible. And that's exactly what connected TV can help you with. Like, imagine that you're watching one of your favorite travel series and you're thinking, you know what, I actually need to book a holiday somewhere. And then basically having an ad that's relevant to you can only help to facilitate those connections between brands and consumers in the real time and the most impactful way, because that's also going to be, for me at least, a very telling experience that a lot of advertising and marketing in 2023 will be based on the context. So a lot of contextual clues, and that's exactly where CTV also is placed within this wider trend.
Yeah, that's a great point, because the moment you get an inspiration for something, the chances are this is exactly when you're consuming some content and it gives you an idea. And the best moment to tap that interest, that engagement is right there at that moment, not later. So yeah, that's a great way of brands to be relevant right at that moment. Mateusz, is there something about your field that you really like to change? One thing or two, probably something systemic, like you would like things being different in that regard?
Yes, definitely. I mean, there are multiple things I would love to change, and I think that's also part of it why we're all in this industry, right? Trying to kind of put our money where our mouth is, and try to change those things. But if I really have to think about one that's really bugging me lately, is the fact that I think as a whole industry we failed a bit, the end users, and we are also the end users, in translating the value of having this personalized content and everything we talked about before. Because right now I think we kind of woke up in a situation when we think that any type of tracking, measurement, user level data is always harmful to the customer, when it's not always the truth, right? I mean, we all prefer a personalized ad compared to something that's completely unrelated to what we want. We all want to be exposed with kind of like a free content that can be also goes in line with our values, with our beliefs, and our lifestyle. And I think here as an industry, we really didn't, let's say, help the users to understand how this mutual contract goes when it comes to the let's say, I don't know, the ads shown in the apps, and that's why the whole discussion around the privacy was a bit blurred. However, I'm very happy to see that a lot of the industry and the players and partners are trying to create better and safer digital experiences. across the whole industry, which means, for example, regaining so giving back control of the user level data to the users. And I think the big change I would really wish to see is that the industry as a whole should kind of finish the grief moments of the, oh, but it used to be so much easier, and we had all the data from each of the users. I'd rather start adapting and experimenting with those new frameworks. Like, for example, the Scan 4.0 is basically a pretty complex and complete solution, which can be utilized on the aggregate level, which is really, we don't need any other information than the one that the user agreed to gives us. And we can still create a very meaningful connections with the end users when it comes to the brands, apps, trying to reach to the relevant audiences. So summarizing, like, one big change I would love to see is to more and more brands are fully not only tolerating, but also embracing the new aggregate and privacy-centric reality, rather than trying to avoid the topic, because I think that's where the future is, for all the good reasons.
Terrific point, Mateusz. I think as the whole industry is growing and become mature more and more, we're getting there. We're getting to the point where all major players, like the whole industry, will recognize this is the right thing to do. This is how things should happen. And when I say mature, I partially mean not only, just the whole industry as a notion, but people who are involved become older. Because, recently I listened to Tony Fidel interview when he was asked, why do you think the tech industry wasn't so irresponsible in terms of, privacy, data collection? And he said one thing that really struck me, which was, there's always a difference when people become married, get kids, they become way more responsible. Before that moment, they may realize that that's the right thing to do, but just they don't get it on that level. So as time goes by, naturally, these people become family, they become fathers, they become husbands and wives. So yeah, I hope that this is the trend we're moving forward to quite naturally. But yeah, one will hope that whole industry-wide recognition will become a reality faster.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think that's exactly the mindset we should all embrace. That basically, it's not just a couple of fanatics doing something in their spare time, but this is a major industry that's basically most of the tier 1 countries are using mobile phones. Is very often one of the main channels when it comes to even financing in the developing countries, access to the capital, accessibility to the internet. And that's, if we don't act responsibly here, I think, to be honest, there's no other way than just embrace it and, as you said, do the right thing.
Right. Okay. We finished the first part of the show, and there is a second one coming up. And this is my chance to ask a few quick questions every guest I have on the show, so people who are listening to us know my guest better. Here we go.
Okay.
What smartphone do you have now? Having been switching between these two giants, iOS and Android, or just preferring one side all the time?
No, I have to admit, I'm an Apple fanboy. This is iPhone 10. So I'm not the one that gets the new iPhone whenever it's released, the same day. But definitely a huge admiration for the product excellence that Apple here shows us.
Got you. Okay. Back in the day when smartphone didn't exist, we used to have these flip phones. Do you remember your first mobile phone from that part?
Definitely. That's also where that was my first mobile gaming experience. That was Nokia 3310 and a famous Snake game, which I think was a big part why I really wasn't paying attention at the school. It was one of the most engaging games ever. So that was a Finnish giant back then, Nokia 3310.
Gotcha. Yeah, that famous SNES game for sure. Okay, imagine right now you left your home and for whatever reason you left your iPhone at home. When you're out, what would be the most missing feature for you?
Yeah, and this is hard to admit because I strongly believe I have amazing sense of orientation, but my girlfriend would probably tell we straight away the Google Maps or any navigation app that we can't rely too much on my ego feeling that I know where to go when and where to drive. So I think the navigation in the phone is just brilliant.
Gotcha. Yeah, the scientists are still trying to figure out how birds navigate, but we know for sure how people navigate. The answer is simple: Google Maps. What new technologies are you most excited about at this point? Perhaps you look at this, probably not your smartphone at this point, but smartphone in general. What do you think it's missing right now? Hardware, software, or both?
Yeah, good question. I'm a strong believer in the whole AI trend. I think the recent improvements we see, even with the ChatGPT, how it can actually basically take away a certain mundane task, and that's what I think a lot of opportunity is. And I also heard like different voices saying, "Oh, it's gonna take away our jobs, and it's gonna be a doom of humanity." I strongly believe the opposite. Like, I think it can only enrich the things we do and actually let us focus on the really important creative parts rather than doing something that's just annoying and we don't like to do it. So I think there's definitely a room to coexist. And it's always a good example. I remember that I heard it a couple of years back. You know how the whole AI works was the example of the ATMs, and that all the bank tellers were saying, "Oh, that's the worst thing that can happen. How the machine can give away the money. Those are jobs." That was in 1970s. The thing is, the number of bank tellers as jobs just increased, and their job expanded to different areas. And such a mundane task as counting the dollars and giving them away was basically put into the ATM machine. And I strongly believe that with the ethical and responsible use of AI, that's where we're going. And I hope that more and more of those type of technology and trends we'll see in making our lives better, also when it comes to the smartphones.
Exactly. The tools are tools. It's all about people all the time and how responsible they are. Before I let you go, very, very final question. How can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
Sure. So if you are interested in the new trends in measurement, if you are interested into how to get the most out of your marketing channels, be it paid or owned media, deep linking, feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn. You can find me, or you can actually contact any of our team members at appsflyer.com. We are more than happy to support you and help you out if you have any quest to the correct and accurate data in the mobile ecosystem.
Great. Mateusz, thank you so much for your time and spending this evening with us. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Art. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks for having me.
Bye. And that was Mateusz Bochenczak, Apps and Mobile Gaming Measurement at AppsFlyer. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. We release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe and you'll be able to get new episodes on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as we release it. And please don't forget to leave a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Business of Apps podcast. For more, head on over to businessofapps.com.